Hello and welcome back after our necessary 1 week break due to us both being at Accountex, where we each delivered our own separate masterclasses. Very exciting, both fully booked as well. This is the 60th episode of the Accountant's Success Secrets podcast, and I'm one of your co-hosts, Mark Lee of Bookmark Lee. I'm a mentor, speaker and debunker.
And I'm Philippa Haynes of Insight 101, supporting you to stand out. Each week on the podcast, we showcase another experienced accountant or bookkeeper who we think can inspire and encourage other accountants and bookkeepers in practice around the UK.
We both recognise that every accountant and bookkeeper is unique and distinct. They have different backgrounds, experiences and reasons for starting and building their practices.
Yep, so we asked them to share their stories, including the highs, the lows and what they've learned along the way. We look to explore the things that make them different in terms of their background, their successes, their failures and their focus.
Our aim is to provide some fundamental insights for you, our loyal listener. Actually, there's getting an increasing number of loyal listeners.
Yeah, it's lovely.
It's great. If you'd like to share your story in a similar way, do please get in touch with Philippa or me. We're now taking bookings into August.
We are. That sounds mad, doesn't it? Okay,
Yeah.
so today we are delighted to introduce Elly Flower, who started her Foxclever bookkeeping practice in Torquay back in 2018. She's now AAT qualified and has a fantastic niche in e-commerce. This currently accounts for about half the practice. Along with the support of a couple of contractors, Elly provides specialist bookkeeping services for online retailers who are selling through Shopify, Amazon, Etsy, eBay, and TikTok. Before setting up her practice, Elly wasn't involved in accountancy. She was a shareholder and manager of a successful digital SME.
Yeah, you are very welcome, Elly. Would you like to add anything before we get into the interview?
Hello, it's a pleasure to be part of the podcast. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm just thrilled to be here and to have a chat with you guys and tell you, about my little story and my journey. So yeah, it's good. Great.
Brilliant. I can't wait. Okay, so before we start, we must thank our sponsor, Pinnacle Global, a trusted outsourcing partner with well over 150 clients across the UK and Ireland. Pinnacle's CEO, Mayank Pandya, is a chartered accountant based in London, and he has a passion to encourage innovation and excellence in the accounting profession. Pinnacle has offices in the UK and offshore delivery centres across India, employing over 300 high-quality staff. With a strong focus on quality assurance, Pinnacle has helped many UK accounting firms to scale their capacity and operations. So to find out more, please visit www.pinnacleoss.co.uk. You'll also find the link online wherever you're listening to this podcast.
Also supporting the podcast is the Tax Advice Network. Their website enables accountants to choose specific specialist tax advisors for general tax support or for help across any of over 100 areas of tax. It's free to use. You just pay the tax advisor that you choose after agreeing terms with them. Go take a look at their website, findataxadvisor.online, where you can also register to get their weekly tax tips, which are written especially for general practitioner accountants.
Great. Now back to Elly. As you know, we aim to keep the podcast to around 30 minutes, and we do that by focusing on some key questions.
And I will go first. Let's go back to the start, Elly. How and why did you come to set up your bookkeeping practice?
Right. So I started up in 2018. And it was just after I'd left my previous role at this startup, which you mentioned earlier. That was down in Falmouth, though. I did start down in Falmouth in Cornwall, and I actually only came to Torquay about a year ago. So I'm new to Devon. I'm actually Cornish, really, by trade. Yeah. So I was based in Cornwall then. So I've been going for about 7 years now. Crikey. And now I specialise more in e-commerce, like you say, but I started back then doing ordinary.
Why did you go from the SME that you were involved with into bookkeeping? How did that come about?
Well, so my role there at the SME was as finance and operations manager, and it was a startup which I'd been a shareholder in, but it was my time there really and my experiences there that kind of inspired me to go solo and start doing what I did. I spent about 5 or 6 years helping to grow that startup, and it was very successful, but it was a crazy learning curve because I'd found myself in a finance and operations role, but I'm not from an accounting background. I didn't have any accounting qualifications. And together, all of us that were involved in that startup, we'd never grown a company before. So it was all new. And yeah, I'm not from an accounting background. My background really was admin and project management. And I found myself in a position, I think, like anyone that does a startup, you have to learn how to do these things to make the business work. And I'd never done them before. So I found myself having to plan and manage all of the finances and do the budgets and do the cash flows and figure out the payroll. And we grew very quickly. I mean, we grew within the first 3 years, we had a staff of about 25 people. And it was an international staff as well, because our contracts were in the US. So we had multi-million-dollar contracts from publishers in the US. And we had a shop floor of 25 people. And that was by year 3. I mean, the growth was just very fast. And it was quite a lot to deal with at the time. So, but I'd never, we had to learn how to do all of the things that are required from managing the finances for a growing company, budgets, cash flow, like I say, figure out, I'd never heard of the term P11D before and doing staff benefits and how it all works.
Oh, yes.
And then
Did you have a decent accountant to help you and guide you?
Yeah, I did. But we started off with one local accountant, and because our business was gaming, it was a digital gaming company, and not a lot of gaming, in fact, no gaming companies even existed in Cornwall at the time. We were the first one. So the accountant had never experienced this kind of business model before. And I think for them, it was a learning curve as well. We actually, about halfway through, chose a different accountant who was younger and more interested in that kind of realm and was more suitable for us. And they were absolutely brilliant. I don't think I could have got through it without this new accountant that we chose. He was brilliant. But to do it all from not coming from that kind of background, by year 5 or 6 of being in that role, we were doing preparations for share valuations. We were costing out multi-million-dollar projects and contracts. And I would have given my eye teeth at the time to have someone that I could phone or someone that I could reach out to for support, because inside you're constantly second guessing yourself. And I mean, imposter syndrome is a real thing. I didn't have anyone really. I could phone up my accountant or I could phone up the legal team and the solicitor, but you're very conscious that the clock is ticking on their fees. And it made me realize that there was a market out there for people who are starting up their own businesses, and they do need someone to do the books, but they just need a little bit of extra support and someone to say, it's all right not to know what you're doing. It's okay. You're doing great. But sometimes you
so
don't.
that almost inspired you then. Did it feel more like a purpose to sort of jump out? Because obviously you jumped from something that was very successful, so there has to be a fairly strong reason for that. Not, obviously not wishing to get into the personal stuff or nitty gritty around it, but it obviously occurred to you at some point that you wanted something else. Am I right there?
Yeah, I'd always wanted to run my own business on my own. I come from a family business background. My family owned their own business for like 30 years. So
right.
I'd always had that intent. And I just wanted to take the skills I had learned and my experiences and really just take it out there. And to I just started with my local market, local businesses, and just went, hi, I can do your books, but I can also be that little bit of extra support because everyone needs a little bit of help. And to give you
So
that
where did the
confidence.
e-commerce bit come from? Because that's not really gaming, is it? I don't suppose. I mean, it's obviously online and digital, but
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it's not at all. No, you can have an e-commerce business in anything, you know. The e-commerce came about because, and I've been doing it, yeah, for about 2 or 3 years now, I suppose. Some of the, because I was getting a lot of referral work from my local accountancy firms. And I just had a few new clients. So the accountants brought them to me. Hey, we've got this client on the books, but they're selling on Shopify and Amazon, and they're selling internationally, and money's coming into the bank account from all these different places, using all these different platforms. They were using a previous bookkeeper, but she doesn't want to do it anymore because she doesn't understand what's going on and she doesn't really want to learn into it. Do you want to do it? And so yeah, all right, then I'll take it on. So I basically learned from a couple of clients that were given to me. And then I realized that e-commerce is huge and getting bigger. And I was interested in it. So I knew that there's a new and very much growing market for e-commerce. In fact, I mean, there's the amount of bookkeepers and accountants that specialize in e-commerce is growing, but I think it will start to grow really quickly. Because it's necessary, it's needed. There's a lot of companies out there selling on Amazon and Shopify, and they need to know how to do it properly. So, yeah.
And with 2 or 3 years of expertise in that area under your belt and a particular interest in it, I imagine that you are genuinely a specialist, as distinct from somebody. If you go back to when you started, on the e-commerce side of things, you
Yeah.
might have seen them specializing in it, but you only had 2 or 3 clients experience to draw on. Whereas
Yeah.
now you are really specializing in it compared to the other bookkeepers and accountants who might only have 1 or 2 clients and are sort of trying to work it out as they go. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's right. E-commerce, the nitty-gritty of it means that you need to learn how to do the integrations. You need to learn how the integration software works, and you need to understand how to program it. So it's becoming like a bit of a programmer, really. And I think this is part of this whole evolving, the evolving bookkeeper. You know, before, bookkeepers were these people who, and still are in a lot of ways, people that take that box of receipts at the end of the month and pop them in the books and record the VAT. But nowadays, it's AI. This is the future. You have to get on board with it. And we're talking about companies that are selling, you know, let's say they sell T-shirts, for example. They're selling 500 to 1,000 T-shirts a day internationally. So you've got 1,000 transactions with various different types of VAT going on.
You can't do that.
No, you need to be able to use the AI software in order to do it. And so you link it up to Xero and QuickBooks and get the whole automation running. And that's where the specialist service is, because you need someone who's learned how to do it.
So where are you now then, compared to where you thought you would be? Because obviously you jumped off this SME exciting boat or whatever, and then kind of set up with probably an idea of what you wanted to do and went locally and sort of had chats. And now you're here a few years later. Have you gone in the direction that it intended? Have things changed, or?
Yeah, I didn't see the e-commerce thing coming when I first started. I didn't see that coming at all.
Bit of a hot potato, though, isn't it? I suspect
it was a little bit, because when I first started it, I thought, oh God, what is this? How do I learn? I don't even know what it is. You know, I had to learn. And at the end of the day, the client, the business owner, I don't think they really understand the importance of it. So what I'm finding is actually the business owners don't know that they need a Shopify bookkeeper. The accountants do. The accountants realize it, because the accountants come to do the year end and lift up the bonnet and go,
there's a lot of work here if there is a bookkeeper who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. So it is growing, but it's not something that I saw coming. No. I think when COVID came, I mean, I'd started up in 2018. I got myself a little office. I had, I had desks and filing cabinets and printers and the whole desk and office set up. And then when COVID hit, I took that all home, and I decided to go paperless. And I
Yeah,
thought,
well,
I'm not,
you
like a lot of people, so I went sort of digital then and started using all the digital receipt scanning apps, Dext, HubDoc, and all the rest of them. And then I just sort of thought, well, these new clients came along, and I thought, well, actually, there's a whole new market there. I'm good at doing digital. I made sure that all of my clients that I onboarded knew that everything was remote, everything was digital. And I put a strong emphasis on my clients to use digital methods, because I don't know how you cope without using them these days, almost,
Yeah, it's
Well,
really important.
yeah.
Sorry, go on, Mark.
No, I was just going to say, I think you're absolutely right, Ellie. And when you said that, some clients were selling on Shopify or Amazon, Etsy or whatever, don't appreciate why they would need a specialist bookkeeper. I suspect the simple answer is, if it's not somebody who knows what they're doing and they're charging by the hour, they're going to charge the fees are going to be, it's not that I'm sure you're not charging and aiming to be the cheapest, but if you know what you're doing and you're able to automate things, it's a lot simpler and more organized for everybody than an old style bookkeeper who's trying to deal with every transaction individually or guessing at how to automate things. I can imagine it's a very easy sell.
Yeah. I think there is a growing awareness, but I feel a bit passionate really about helping other bookkeepers to train in it as well. So I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I do train in how to become an e-commerce bookkeeper if you're kind of interested in it.
Excellent. That's fab.
Yeah.
So I do offer training in it, because it is a growing market, and I think a lot of some bookkeepers just won't want to touch it with a barge pole, and that's fine. We've all got our specialist fields. Some people just do payroll, some people just do certain industries. Everyone's got their thing. But if you are looking to get into it, or you've got clients, or you're an accounting practice who have got clients, and looking at the books going, there's an awful lot of stuff going on here, and we're not quite entirely sure how we should be doing it, then
that's lovely. We see this is in line with what I talk about, to be honest, which is having a theme, or recognizing what you're interested in, or what you're suddenly getting a lot of, and being able to become that expert and that thought leader. And then it means that you can actually do all kinds of things around that, so that the day job may be bookkeeping for your e-commerce clients, but then also on top of that, as you've said, you've got that training opportunity as well. And it all feeds back into the theme, because it's all around e-commerce, isn't it? So it's beautiful, and it's really easy for people to understand.
Yeah, I think for me, like a really big point actually that I do want to make is about community. One thing I love, and when I started up, is how good the bookkeeping and accounting community is. We're so supportive of one another, and that's not the same in other industries. Starting up my practice, when I first started, it is kind of a lonely place. You're second guessing yourself. You need a bit of support, and I mean, Facebook groups and things were great for things like that. But now I love the fact that, you can jump onto LinkedIn or Facebook and find these groups, and there are just people going, oh, crumbs, I've never done this before, or I've got this kind of scenario happening. Does anyone else know how to do it? Because I've never done it before. And people come forward and say, yeah, it's fine. We're very open as a community. And I think with the e-commerce side of it anyway, I do genuinely want to help other bookkeepers. It's not just about, creating a course or creating training products and selling them. It's the goodwill is also there as well, because it is a very, very much growing market, and it's going to get really big, I think.
And it's something rising ship, something tides. I can't remember what the expression is, but essentially, if you're helping other bookkeepers to do what you do well, then reputations of bookkeepers who are good at e-commerce helps everyone.
It does.
as distinct from having situations where there's people moaning about their bookkeeper's rubbish, which is bad for everyone. So I'm 100% with you. And I run my own community for sole practitioner accountants who are incredibly supportive of each other. And we meet online once a month on discussing practice related topics that they choose, but I know some of them are in touch with each other outside of the meetings, helping each other, as you say, deal with situations from a technical perspective that they've not encountered before. And I just think it's wonderful, because we all just want to help everyone to get and to enjoy what they're doing.
Yeah. It's also why I like to use contractors where I can, rather than just have my own staff on my own payroll, because we've all got certain skills. So, I can ask the contractors that I'm working with, have you ever done this? Do you know how to do this bit? And they can come to, and we can learn from each other. And also I'm helping to support them keep their own practices alive by engaging them as contractors. So yeah, it is all about community. I feel really strongly about that. Yeah,
I love that. What else would you say you've learned along the way to get where you are now?
This is another thing I feel really strongly about is I'm going to talk about pricing and the tendency for bookkeepers to underprice themselves and bookkeepers to undervalue ourselves, which is changing and it needs to change.
Absolutely.
I think I put a post up on LinkedIn recently because there was an Indeed advert for a job, and I think they were paying £16 an hour for a book. Yeah, I won't name the company, obviously, but it's just it's not okay. It really does need to change. When I first started, I started out charging £18 an hour, and yeah, and I quickly learned that I couldn't make a profit out of that. No way. So, and I went and I actually had a handover client from another bookkeeper. She was, I think it was an e-commerce client, funnily enough. And I took it from her because she didn't want to do it. But she'd been in practice for years. She had quite an established firm, and she was only charging £19 an hour. And I said to her, I'm going to change my pricing structure. So this client is going to have to understand that I'm going to put my prices up. And she said, oh, right, okay. And I said, well, if they don't like it, then they shouldn't be working with me, because there is, these books are hard as well. They're tough. And within 6 months, she'd put her prices up because she'd had that conversation with me. And I think it's true. I think we do have a tendency to underprice ourselves. So, and I know this is a big topic as well. I see it constantly talked about. So I think mistakes learned along the way, not charging enough at the start. I've rectified that now, but I think it's a real struggle. And I wish I'd just priced myself higher from the get-go. Absolutely.
Well, I just to pick up on that in terms of pricing issues. Yeah, on a lot of the Facebook groups, there are people saying anything less than £30 is exploitation. And yeah, I remember 15, 20 years ago working with an accounting bookkeeping agency who charged £25 an hour, of which they kept 5 and the bookkeeper got 20. But that was 15, 20 years ago. And he eventually stopped running the agency because he couldn't make a big enough margin, because he wanted to make sure the bookkeepers were being paid properly for what they were doing. 20 years ago, they were charging in the region of £20, £25 an hour.
Yeah. I think clients, and unfortunately, that Indeed advert just makes me sad, because it just shows that clients and businesses still only value bookkeepers at £16 an hour. But I think if the whole community changes, the going rate, because that's what it's all based on, isn't it? It's the going rate. And that's what the going rate used to be, was, £15 to £20 an hour, somewhere along the line. It's not like that anymore.
Do you think it's because business owners don't necessarily understand what bookkeeping is all about. You know, it's kind of when you're talking about accountant, there seems to be that sort of halo effect and everybody really understands, whereas bookkeeping, I kind of wonder, and I don't know whether people just don't understand how important it is if they're not sort of involved in kind of a day-to-day, or actually have a business that requires it, because I think, you know, you have to be a certain level, don't you, to be able to kind of use a bookkeeper effectively. I don't know, what do you think, Mark and Ellie? What?
Well, my view is that the adverts for Indeed and that sort of thing, we end up comparing apples and pears,
Yeah,
because a full, you know, the rate you earn on if the effective hourly rate from a full-time contract will always be less than what you charge as a self-employed independent contractor, because you're getting paid for every hour and you're getting holiday pay and sick pay and all the rest of it if you're an
yeah.
employee. And
Mm,
it's also a question of how many hours do you divide the annual salary by? Is it,
Mm.
1,850 hours total number of hours, or is it closer to 1,600, the number that you're likely to be working? And you end up with different numbers. Whereas when you're self-employed running your own practice like Ellie is, she's not being paid, or unlikely to be paid, for 1,850 or even 1,600 hours of billable work. So you've got to be
yeah.
careful what you're comparing there. What do you think, Ellie?
Yeah, I think there's a slight misconception, I think, by business owners into what's basically appropriate, and when you're costing it out, you base it on a full-time role, and
Yeah,
you prorate it over the year. So I get what you're saying there, yeah, and I don't see that there's anything necessarily wrong with that approach. I think that's
yeah,
actually that's a good and correct approach to have. The problem, I feel, is that it's a legacy problem,
yeah,
because the job has always been compared to that same of a general administrator or office manager,
yeah,
and they're lumped all together, and people don't understand that. But to be I confess, I left
yeah,
my job, I did my AAT, and even though I'd been doing the books and finance management for this startup, and I thought I knew what I was doing, and then I went through bookkeeping school, and I came out the other end going, oh, there's loads of stuff that I didn't realize, so you do, it's only until you go through your qualification that you learn properly. um yeah, I
So
think it's
we're coming to the end, but just and we've gone totally off piste actually. But you know, what would your message be for other accountants and bookkeepers? Because I think, you know, you've obviously got a lot of experience. What's the one thing you would kind of convey here, do you think?
I would say, don't undervalue yourself. Put your
yeah,
prices, find out what
Yeah,
other up-to-date good, I'm going to use the word modern here, I don't know if that's quite right, but what other bookkeepers are charging, and price yourself accordingly, and don't undervalue yourself. And secondly, choose your clients really carefully,
yes,
because it's very easy at the start to just take on any kind of work. But if you've got clients coming to you who are, they've already been very late in filing their VAT returns, they're really stressed, their accounts are already late, be very wary of those, because the
yeah,
likelihood is that you probably won't get paid and you won't be appreciated, and you'll do a lot of work.
yeah, yeah,
that, yeah,
yes,
so just be
the voice,
careful.
yeah.
yeah,
My
the
my
voice of experience.
Yeah, my takeout is, if you have, I'm going to use the horrible word, niche or theme, but if you do have an area of expertise like you have, then I think a lot of the problems that we've talked about, like perceptions or misconceptions of pricing and all of that, that begins to sort of go away, because you become a thought leader and you become, you know, an expert in that field, and that enables you to bring further value. And of course then you're working with the right clients as well, because you've kind of chosen them, and they're probably, you know, have a similar perspective on life. So that's my takeout, really, that, you know, if you do focus your energies, and not everybody has to, but certainly with bookkeeping, it does enable you to sort of lift up, doesn't it, and supply that value add. What do you think, Mark? What's your
Yeah,
take
well,
on that session?
I build on that as well, because I understand the temptation to want to know what the market rate is, but that should only ever be a starting point. It's the market rate is a sort of a baseline. If you've got particular expertise, remember that, as you've already said, Ellie, bookkeepers and accountants are not interchangeable. The output that gets produced might be comparable in terms of trial balance, books of account, and financial statements and tax returns and all the rest of it, payroll, VAT returns, but the service that's delivered, the speed with which the service is delivered, the competence, the knowledge, the expertise, the support, they're all dependent upon each individual bookkeeper and accountant's background, experiences, style, approach, other clients. And those are not interchangeable. Every bookkeeper, every accountant is different. And it's one of the things that just comes across time after time on the podcast is everyone is different. So comparable fees are a baseline. If you're offering something different and better and can evidence that to clients in the way that you help your clients to do, Philippa, and I think I help accountants to do as well, you're likely to be able to charge more than that baseline because you can evidence why you're worth more, because you're not interchangeable. And Elly clearly has particular expertise in e-commerce. Anybody who's training other bookkeepers in how to do it, and I imagine once in a flood you will encounter somebody who says, "Well, I can't afford your fees because you're higher than the baseline." In which case, but could you train up my bookkeeper for me?
Yeah, that's great.
And I can imagine that happen. Have you ever had that happen yet?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, have a little bit.
I think that's another story, which sadly we don't have time for, Mark, because we've hit the 30 minutes and some. So Ellie, I think it's been a really great session. How can people get in touch with you if they want to just engage you or to find out more generally about bookkeeping for e-commerce? Give us your contact details.
Okay, well, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn. I have either just my normal profile, Ellie Flower, on there, but also my practice has a page as well, Fox Clever Bookkeeping, and my website, foxcleverbookkeeping.com. And
this is your training
through that.
There's the training links available through those as well.
Yeah, you can see that I've got a page on my website that specifies out the kind of training packages that I offer. So yeah, just get in touch directly through my website. Yeah, brilliant. It's been lovely to be on the podcast, guys. Thank you so much.
It's been lovely to have you. So thank you for that. And Philippa, how can listeners find out more about you and Insight 101?
So you can also find me on LinkedIn and also my website, insight101.co.uk. I support accountants and bookkeepers to stand out and using your language, Mark, to evidence how they can add value. I think we've seen from Ellie just how you can bring a theme and a speciality to life and how you can use that for thought leadership, but also to direct your business and have the growth that you really want. Some people do that naturally, others need some help to kind of decipher what it really is that they should be all about. And that's where I come in. I can help you with your website optimization as well. Sometimes it's just you've got that clarity of thought, you just haven't got it in your marketing. And also I am doing a masterclass, Mark, coming up next week, in fact, around leadership and how you can be a brand leader in your field. So all of that coming up. Mark, tell us a bit more about your business for accountants and bookkeepers. Yes. Brilliant.
And drawing on the experiences of our podcasts. Next week we have our 50th interview. I work with accountants primarily, and one thing I've learned over the years is that running your own practice isn't easy, and many accountants in particular feel quite isolated. If you'd like things to feel easier, better, or more on your terms, that's exactly where I come in. Whether it's better clients, fewer headaches, more profit, I'm always happy to chat, no strings attached. Some ad hoc conversations lead on to regular one-to-one working together. This afternoon, one of my longest standing mentoring clients gives up their monthly session with me and has me mentoring, providing ad hoc support to members of their team, which has grown over the years I've been working with them. And I love doing that as well. Beyond the one-to-one working, a number of accountants join my sole practice club, not to talk and bitch about the revenue or practice issues, and technical issues, but more how to run their practices efficiently, effectively, and to learn from each other. Anyway, if we're not already connected, I'd encourage you to reach out, connect with both Philippa and me and Ellie on LinkedIn. And do please follow the podcast pages on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Online, everywhere, I'm Bookmark Lee. Even my business card is a bookmark.
So sadly, that's all we have time today, but thank you very much for Ellie. Our thanks go to our sponsors of the podcast, Pinnacle Global Group, your trusted outsourcing partner. Do check out their website and let their CEO, Mayank, know you heard about Pinnacle Global on the Accountant Success Secrets podcast.
And thanks to the Tax Advice Network, the easiest way for accountants to reach specialist tax advisors. Remember, there's no charge for using their website, findataxadvisor.online, where you can also access their weekly tax tips written especially for general practitioner accountants.
So if you've enjoyed this episode, please share the love online, subscribe and leave a review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or I think that's it actually. But also let us have your feedback directly. And that lots of people did that in spades at Accountex, so it was really lovely to hear that. It helps to broaden the reach of the podcast anyway. Please also contact us, like Ellie did, in fact, to say that she would love to be part of the podcast, or if there's somebody else that you would love to hear, we're happy to go and knock on their doorstep and say, come along, we want to speak to you. So please do get in touch.
Absolutely. It's great hearing from people. And like you, I also had loads of conversations with people telling me that they listened to the podcast that I didn't know that they did at Accountex. Anyway, time's got the better of us. So thank you, Philippa. Thank you again to Ellie, our wonderful guest today. There'll be another episode of the Accountant Success Secrets next week when our guest will be Paula Tomlinson, our 50th interviewee. Quite excited about that. Until next week or anywhere else we might meet online or in real life. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.